All right, a very warm welcome to This is Market Pulse. My name is Jimmy Mboga, and of course, the year is off to a fantastic start with Eabl releasing their half-year results. And I'm here with the MD, Jen Karuku. And Jen, welcome to the program. So, about 5 or 6 months ago, when we sat in this set, one of the things that we were looking at were the FX impact and everything that was happening within the FX space and that volatility that was there. One of the things that we were expecting then is that the Kenya shilling would settle at around 140. Now, as we speak, it's down to about 129, 128 to 130. And I just want to know, from an operation standpoint, what has been the impact of that to the business?
Thank you very much, Jimmy, and Happy New Year. Hope it's not too late. I think, yes, you're right. When we sat here, the FX challenge for our business was a huge one. And I'm very happy that as we speak today, it's 128, 129 odd shillings to the dollar. And of course, this has different aspects of our business. One is pure costs of goods from an input perspective. It affects our COGS. Obviously, it hasn't come through quite through the organization because we had some stuff we had already bought before. But even in terms of net interest and dollar-denominated things that we do in the organization are positively affected. So I think it's a good thing, and I'm hoping it can go even longer.
All right, so the other headache around that time was inflation. But towards the end of the year, we saw inflation coming down to as low as 2.7 to about 3% as we speak. And I just want to know, has that reflected on how the consumer is spending?
I think it's yes and no. I think one of the things that drives real inflation or tough inflation issues for the consumer is the cost of food. And we've seen food prices really well contained. And I think that is helping the consumer. But on the other hand, there are other things that are making the consumer feel stressed in the ecosystem across East Africa. Because there are still other things that the consumer has to do, like school fees, medical and other stuff. So I think it's very good the inflation costs are low, and it's very good that the prices of food is good. But you can see from our numbers is the premium consumer is the one who's probably driving the delivery faster for our business because they're less stressed.
All right, so let's talk about the input cost. And by this, I'm looking at the raw materials from ethanol to sorghum to barley. And I just want to know, when you compare where you are today and where you were half a year ago, how has that shifted?
So ethanol is a good story. And if you remember, ethanol was affected by the drought. I think it's right to say about 16 months ago, we had a big drought, and 18 months ago. So that affected the general output of ethanol across Africa, because it didn't only affect East Africa, but also affected other parts of Africa. I mean the drought.
Yeah.
So we are seeing some better prices for ethanol as rains have been generous, and therefore there's a lot of sugarcane being grown. So ethanol is a positive story, and that has indeed helped our business. And looking into the future, the net effect could be more. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nothing changes.
All right. So looking at your liquidity and specifically debt, your debt is down about 5 billion shillings. And of course, I'm thinking for a lot of our audience would be thinking, Eabl has debt. How does that work? And could you just tell us how, first of all, this debt came about and what those funds were used to, did you invest in, and how are you managing your debt levels at the moment?
Any business requires cash, and cash generally is generated from your operations or from debt. If you remember, we're still recovering from COVID. COVID is 2020, 2019.
Yeah.
So there was a COVID effect when it affected our businesses quite roughly, and that's when we took on a lot of this debt. So we always need it on an ongoing basis. I think the beauty this year is that we've generated quite a lot of cash. So we've been able to bring down our debt. But debt always has to be there for any business to operate and for expansion. So most of the debt we acquire is for expansion. Remember, we were expanding, whether it's a microbrewery, whether it's a ESG expansion in Tanzania, and very many other spirits expansion. So we'll always be in debt in and out. But I think the challenge is, are you able to pay? And are you able to contain the interest rates in which you're paying for that debt so that you can deliver at least some good shareholder returns?
All right.
also a dividend. Yeah.
All right. So could you give us more insights in how your debt is currently structured? Are we talking local currency? Are we talking US dollar? And what is the split?
Most of our debt is local currency.
Okay. And so just looking back at operational issues, again, back to our conversation last year, one of the things that was a major headwind or a stress point for the business was the cost of transportation. How has this developed so far? And also, what are some of the headwinds that you're looking at going into 2025, 26?
I think cost of logistics has not changed that much because cost of logistics is mainly driven by fuel prices. And the fuel prices have not changed that much. I think they've been stable, but they've not declined significantly. So that's something we need to keep watching within the organization to make sure that we are quite efficient and we're also negotiating properly with our suppliers.
Yeah. So again, another operational issue that I'm sure is going to be at the back of your mind is the question around taxation and the tax policy in the country. Last year, excise was a major pain point. I just want to know, looking at this year, where are you? And when you look at the tax environment and the tax policy environment in the country, the thing that you told me then was there was a lack of stability and predictability. Has that shifted, and how are you managing to deal with that volatile tax environment?
I think tax predictability and stability was a challenge about 18 months ago or 12 months ago. I think in the last the last 1 year, taxes have been stable in our industry, and we've seen some improvement thereof, especially this year. So I think it's one place where I think we are making big wins, which probably is explaining why we are starting to get growth, particularly in Kenya, because Tanzania and Uganda tend to be fairly stable. And in Kenya, we are starting to see that come through. So that is positive. And obviously, you can see the results.
Okay. So as we wrap up this conversation, I just want to know, what are some of the headwinds that you are currently worried about on the business side? And also, when you look at the consumer behavior, is there something that is of concern to you and looking at the future of the business?
I think I must say that our business fundamentals are very strong right now as we speak. I also talked this morning about us sticking to strategy, because at the end of the day, that's what counts. Are there going to be headwinds? Of course, they're going to be there. But I'm hoping that the agenda we have in the organization, the initiatives we have in the organization, be it cost efficiency in initiatives, or be it consumer research and consumer innovations, are going to shield us from that. But I guess in life these days, any part of the world, we're in a VUCA environment. There will be speed bumps on the road. There will be things that are just generally that are going to affect our business across, but I think we're ready for them.
All right, so you were very optimistic about the business in Tanzania, and going by the results that you have announced today, it's up about 16%. So looking at that market, what is the room for growth as it stands?
Tanzania, I think, is a potential big business into the future. If you look at the population, the number of young people coming to legal drinking age, the current sort of political regulatory framework in Tanzania, as well as it's a resource-rich country.
Yeah.
So if you combine all those things, it's bound to be a good place to do business into the future, and that's why we're investing ahead in Tanzania.
All right, and where do you see a lot of your revenues coming from in the next year?
I think we'll keep doing what we do.
All right, Jen, I think that's a good place to end it. Thank you so much for making time to be on Market Pulse. And of course, for this and other insightful conversations, this is the only place that you can watch and listen to Market Pulse. My name is Jimmy Mbogo. Thank you for watching. Let's do this again. Same time, same place.